Welcome to the view from the top. Hello, Angela. We are so grateful you took time out of your busy day. Hello, Deborah from Kansas City, to join us today. I'm just grateful for this opportunity to fill in for Brian. It is huge shoes to fill. Yes, I'm a little nervous, but please know the goal of today is to be interactive. Be ready to comment, ask questions, and be a part of the discussion as we go through the show today. Later on, we're going to have our immigration and tax updates and our breaking news. And later on, we're going to focus on one of my favorite topics, which is AI. AI in your everyday, from AI slop to superpowers, which is why I wear my Wonder Woman bracelet, because I feel like it gives me superpowers and so much joy. Oh, hello, Natalie. Sounds like it's cloudy in South Florida. I can tell you the sun is shining in Minneapolis today after we had a 10 inches of snow and a blizzard. I know some folks in Wisconsin who got almost 2 feet, but we are just thrilled to have you. Again, make sure you're commenting as we go along. And also something to take into consideration with the show today is, when we're talking about AI, it's going to be a lot of fun, but we also, hello, Helen, we also need to keep in mind that there are serious things happening in our world right now. Hello, Dana, just talking a little bit to Julia related, to immigration and situations in the Mideast. So we will have somewhat of a balance today between the seriousness in our world and later in AI. And we do hope everyone is safe and well, and our just thoughts are with everyone who is impacted by our current situation in the world. So you can see us, right, on LinkedIn. I believe many of you are watching on LinkedIn, but you can also watch us on YouTube, and you can hear us on Spotify. And I think Tally has a code for Spotify of where you can find us there. There it is. Find the view from the top on Spotify. Now, the all important, we got codes. Oh, hello. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. St. Patty's Day. And yes, we can still celebrate St. Patty's Day today on March 18th. I'm all for it. But we got CPE credits, right? So CPE codes are courtesy of ERC. There's GMS and CRP codes and HRCI, SHRM, courtesy of our friends at Rocket Mortgage. So yes, you're earning while you're here today. Not just learning and getting entertained, but you are going to have valuable things that you can take with you. So now what is it time for? We have our breaking news. Do you see any names in there you recognize to congratulate? We're certainly happy for everyone who is starting new jobs. And of course, hello, David. We want to make sure people are also able to connect with opportunities if you're looking. So hopefully you had a chance to see some of those current openings. Now, on to more serious matters. We're going to talk about immigration with Julia Onslow-Cole from Fragamin and get a feel for this current situation in the Middle East. All right, so please hit the heart button, hit that like button for Julia. And I know, Julia, just in talking to you in our show preps, it's a really hard, stressful time. So
yes, I do hope everyone that's listening from all around the world is safe and well. And thank you, Laurie, for that introduction. And it's lovely to see you. You're doing brilliantly. And also, I just wanted to give a big shout out to our director at Fragman, Raj Mann, and also Ali Haider and Marcin Kubrick. They're working around the clock with our crisis management team, compiling all this information. And I just want to give you 2 minutes worth of information about the Middle East. The first thing to say is we are approaching the Eid break. So as at today, the 18th of March, and that's really important with the Eid holidays because there are a lot of temporary government closures or reduced operating capacity. So it's really important that if you're trying to process any immigration applications, that you note what the dates of the closures are. So in Qatar, for example, the 18th to the 23rd of March, the offices are closed. In the UAE, it's the 19th to the 23rd. So just make a note of that. The other thing to say is that on the ground, many organizations are just continuing to operate in the region, and a lot of their people are just working from home in the region. And then obviously there are some people who are exploring a temporary relocation. And for those people who are doing that, it's very important, again, to keep in touch with official airlines and government communications. That's the absolute best way to get the latest information. And please remember to tell everyone that if they're going to cross land borders, they need to check everything because everything's changing and they need to get real-time verification of the land borders. Now, there's lots and lots of concessions that are being made. Last week, I spoke to Her Excellency Sahir Ahmed, who's the CEO of Regulation and Governments for the Dubai government. And shortly after I did that interview, which is now on social media, it's now on LinkedIn, or parts of it are, the Dubai government announced a really good concession. So anyone that's returning whose visas have expired, who's returning to Dubai before the end or the rest of the UAE before the end of this month, they'll just automatically be extended. There's lots of other concessions from Kuwait, from Bahrain, but the important thing is that you must check them. There's also been some concessions, for example, for Indian citizens who want to transit through Saudi Arabia. Special concessions have actually been given in 1 or 2 cases from consulates. So, please do check on individual cases and see if there are any special concessions that apply. And then I just wanted to say, to remind you that if someone is taking a flight out, it's really important that if they have a full visa for Saudi, they get an exit visa. It's also important that if they're transiting between countries, then they need to think of their immigration, because a lot of the planes are flying with only hand luggage, and it's actually quite because they want to keep the tanks full of fuel in case there's any diversions. So people might be doing stopovers, and then they might be getting their luggage, and then they might be crossing into immigration borders. So it's very important to keep track of that. And then I just want to remind everybody that Fragman have this 5-point plan, and I do really think it's a very good crisis management plan to follow. The first is to make sure that you all know who you have where. And I know that sounds very straightforward, but when we're pulling data for clients, we often find we don't have nationality information, we don't have visa information, and we don't know about the partners that are with them, or maybe aged parents. So it's important you, as a first step in this 5-step plan, you know where everyone is and you have all the data. The second thing is that you evaluate the situation. Though, if you did need to move anyone, you know whether they need an exit visa, etc. The third is that if you activate the plan, obviously there needs to be steps taken around that. And the fourth is the situation when they land somewhere else, because again, quite a few people, not that many, but some people have gone to other countries, and obviously you have to check that they have an immigration and tax right to work from those countries remotely. And the last thing is to say, it's really good to update policies and use this as a refresher for you for your crisis management, because it's not just about, this current crisis, but it's just being prepared for all sorts of events that could happen geopolitically. And the key thing is to engage as GM leaders, to engage with your crisis management team and be really a part of that team, because you are an essential core of that crisis management team for your companies. Thank you so much, Laurie. Thank you.
Julia, thank you so much for that update. And I know when we talked earlier, or just when at the beginning of your segment, you said like people are working around the clock. I can't imagine what it is like to keep up on this situation, because it changes by the hour.
Yes. Well, I mean, obviously our colleagues, who are in the region, those are the ones that our focus is on, our focus of the well-being of our employees. And, they are giving advice to clients as well as, living in the region. So, but, it's a very difficult time for people all over the world, really, who are impacted. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you again. All right, everybody knows what to do now, right? Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. We're so grateful for Julia, especially with everything going on, joining us today to give us that very important update. All right. Thank you again, Julia. And now we're moving on to tax with Julie Barron, and she has a special guest with her today, Tomas Baltazar. And I think there's an Hello, guys.
Hello.
Great to see you.
Lori. Hi.
Your focus is going to be Brazil, correct? And some updates?
Brazil. Yes, that's right. So I was speaking with my good friend Tomas, and he gave me lots of information about some interesting updates from Brazil. So over to you, Tomas.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Laurie. So the subject that we are bringing today revolves around equity awards. So it's very common to have global companies offering equity awards such as RSUs and stock options to employees here in Brazil. And historically, specifically here in Brazil, there has been a lot of debate revolving around what should be the tax treatments of those equity awards. And specifically for stock options, these discussions have been around the nature of the legal nature of the stock options here in Brazil, whether it should be considered remuneration or an individual gain for the individual. So the important point related to this discussion is that while remuneration is subject to ordinary income tax rates here in Brazil, which currently is up to 27.5%, an individual income tax from an investment abroad is subject to a flat 15% rate. So that's the main importance of this discussion when we talk about income taxes. So the update that we are bringing here is related to a recent Brazilian Superior Court decision, which determined that under specific conditions, specifically the risk of market, when the market risk is involved, which is the case for most global stock option plans, those stock options granted to employees, they should be treated as, when there is a gain, they should be treated as a personal gain and not remuneration. So it means that the 15% tax rate would apply and not the regular marginal tax rate for ordinary income as 27.5%. So this is a very important update which kind of consolidates the subject in Brazil. So this is not a very recent decision. It has been around for about 1.5 years. However, considering all the possible appeals that can happen, right now the subject is being consolidated. So I think now it's the best point for companies to evaluate this, because it has matured and all the possible appeals have already been gone at this moment. And another important point related to this specific item is that considering very recent rules that we have here in Brazil applicable to individual investments abroad, so the calculation for the gain in order to apply the 15% tax rate actually happens in the annual income tax return based on the overall gains that the individual had outside of Brazil for foreign investments during the year. And also, losses can be offset with gains, and foreign tax credits may be applied. So there's it's a very complex calculation, which involves not only, for instance, those stocks which were acquired during the stock option plan, but other investments that the individual, the taxpayer, might have outside of Brazil. So that means that it's the final tax liability on this portion of income is very unpredictable before you have the final tax return. So I think the most important takeaway from the decision is that companies should reevaluate how they are currently treating the stock option to any Brazilian population, because if there is any, for instance, withholding or sell to cover procedures currently applied, they should reevaluate that, because if they're withholding let's say a 27.5 or even a 15% withholding from a stock option exercise from an individual, this might not be the ultimate tax liability on that person. And also the timing of the tax should be paid, which will be only on the sale of shares. So if there may be an exercise with holding the shares to a future sale. So all of this makes the process very complex from the company perspective when there is any kind of withholding implemented, which is very common. And also, I think companies should reevaluate how they are treating internal instructions, how they probably have some kind of memos or instructions that are internally provided to individuals, which might at this point be either be outdated on the tax perspective. And one final point that I want to mention is that while this decision is specifically for income tax purposes, there's also another lawsuit which is currently in queue to be also analyzed by the Brazilian Supreme Court, which will decide on the Social Security implications. And even though this is not guaranteed yet, considering that the concept is the same, the expectation is that the outcome of this future decision will also be that Social Security on stock options will also not be considered due in Brazil, because it should be considered an individual investment and not part of remuneration.
Wow. Thank you, Tomas. Julie, anything you'd like to add?
That was a lot. Well, the only thing I'm taking away is that Julia and I are going to go on a trip and visit Tomas in Brazil, because we just have to check it all out. Yeah.
I still
come see for yourself.
And what's the weather like right now there?
Here is always inviting weather. So even our winter is very warm. Only in most southern Brazil we have cold weather. So weather in Brazil is always inviting.
Even more excited to go now. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. And everyone, you know what to do. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. And you guys are sticking around for something special at the end of the show. So I'm really excited for that too.
All right.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. Now we're coming up to the main part of the show. And here we go. We're going to talk about AI in your everyday. Are you ready, Tally, to hit the video?
AI's the teammate you didn't expect. Works all night long with get total respect. No coffee breaks, no attitude. Just here to boost your everyday mood. Oh, light your everyday. Tools, tactics, transformation. Hey, we're saving time and sparking ideas. Global mobility magic starts right here.
All right, we're back. A little fun. I get joy from working with these tools, right? Creating music is one of my absolute favorite things to do. And we'll share a little more about that and talk about some of the tools that are involved in that. I can kind of walk you through a few things. You may not know a lot about my crazy history, right? And I know I'm not supposed to do slides, but I love slides. And I'm not one who actually even uses AI for slides. I love to build them myself, and I see the world in pictures and visuals. So what you can see here is I have a diverse background, right? TV news, retail operations, mobile apps, weather network, Serva plus relocation in there. But the two things that I want to focus on are the bookmarks. In the upper left-hand corner, while I was getting all into this AI stuff, a book came out about my grandfather and his impact on fighting anti-Semitism and racism. And what I saw was his passion for making the world a better, kinder place. And I believe with AI, there are so many great ways to use these tools for good. And that is what I'm incredibly passionate about, and using it across my entire life, helping organizations, nonprofits, and what I'm excited to bring to you today. All right. I know I'm going back. I keep sharing my screen. I'm going to drive Tally absolutely crazy. So why you should stick around? Because we're going to talk about feelings. Oh my gosh, Lisa, have we figured out how to use AI to win our brackets? Actually, what we should do is a test, and we should compare how people do who used AI and who didn't, and then measure the results. I love it. But we are going to talk about feelings and what can come out when we use these tools. And I'm going to ask you, I want to know, where do you go to learn AI or practice? And I believe, people talk about writing emails, and I believe with AI, that is just a tip of the iceberg for what's possible. And another key thing is there's no I in team. So I look back at my 3 years that I've been leading AI workshops and doing everything. It's not because I know everything. I do not. I know a little bit, but what you do is when you talk to other people and they share your stories, that exchange of information is where the magic happens. And just last week, I was in Boston for the Jeremiah program, which disrupts the cycle of poverty 2 generations at a time. And I got to lead an AI session for single moms. And it wasn't what I brought to the table. It's what they learned from each other when they each shared their different use cases and the impact it was having for all of them. So learning together is the best. It used to be, all right, Tally, I'm coming back. Yeah, it used to be people were like, where do I start with AI? And now what we're seeing is that people have started and they're like, what do I do next? So the conversation has shifted just a little bit. And one of my favorite people who I follow on LinkedIn is Connor Grennan. And his whole thing is that leveraging AI is really a mindset shift more than anything else. It's remembering, hey, I could probably ask AI for this. I could probably ask AI for this. And I'm going to give you an example. When Tally and I were prepping for today, because this is my first time doing the show, and I'm like nervous. And I'm like, all right, Tally, what do I need to say at the beginning of the show? And she rattled everything off. I'm like, wait, why isn't Tally hosting the show today? She knows her stuff so well, and it's so great. But we recorded the conversation in Gemini, we recorded the conversation. I got that transcript, and I'm like, all right, help me build a little playbook for myself to host this show. And then I said, not only do I want a generic one that could be used for everyone, but now, based on what my particular show is about, now create a playbook just for this show. So for some reason, it didn't automatically occur to me to do that, but it certainly was very, very helpful. All right, we're back. Yeah. Now, again, a key thing that we're going to focus on today is using AI in your everyday. And the CEO of OpenAI, he used it when he brought a new baby home. And this reminded me, who remembers, I'm a little older, but we had a nurse hotline. And when my husband called to say, do our kids have rashes because my wife's been washing the kids in draft? Yeah, they all laughed. You could hear them laughing through the phone. AI, no judgment. I can ask all these silly questions without any type of response. And this is what people are saying about using these tools, right? Listen to what this lady said. I learned to garden. I learned to cook. I lost weight. I did a beauty makeover. I processed emotional baggage, added organization. I mean, honestly, anything is possible. And yes, I do believe in having a skeptical eye and the critical thinking that goes into making sure you are able to decipher what to do with the information that comes out. So now, this is definitely interactive. So what I'd like you to do in the comments, tell me, what is your AI comfort level, and describe how AI makes you feel. Maybe it's happy, maybe it's excited, maybe it's scared, but please share that. I would like to have all of us be talking about it, and I will share your comments out loud. What do we got next? I'm surprising myself. Oh, this is a real study that was done. And this was, I think, over a year ago, but it's legit, right? It's Wharton, it's Harvard Business School, it's Procter & Gamble. Yes, significant levels, higher levels of positive emotions. And I'm going to share an example with you for how I feel like a kid again. I literally, the stuff I'm able to do that I could never do before, I'm going to my 86-year-old parents and I'm like, look what I just did. Yes, it's fun. And the other thing it can do on the flip side of that is it can help with anxiety or stress. Sometimes for me, it's like, tell me what's the worst thing that can happen here, or help me put myself in this other person's shoes, because maybe I'm overreacting to what I'm seeing or dealing with right now. And I really do think sometimes it can help talk you off of the negative places our minds tend to go. And through leveraging AI tools, I think I've learned a lot about how my mind works in terms of consuming information. Robin, you're comfortable, but you need help figuring out how to automate processes. All right, we're going to get there. Exciting, though careful with the results on AI. I completely agree. All right, we're going to keep things moving. Meredith's very comfortable, and it makes me feel like I'm a superstar CEO already. All right, now we got more questions for you. What's one small thing you've used AI for that actually brought you joy and relief? All right. And I'm going to show you mine. You tell me yours, I'll show you mine. Here we go. Bertha Levinson's immigrant story. And anxious, I don't want my technical skills to atrophy on certain tasks, but also love the time. It is very agreeable and makes me feel like I can do anything. I wish it would disagree with me at times. So Joyce, what's interesting about that, ChatGPT for me seems more agreeable. And then I tried the new voice in Anthropic's Claude tool. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Claude, but it was actually like, why would you do that, Lori? I'm like, oh, I haven't had it like question my thoughts before. And Claude did that more than ChatGPT. AI makes me have mixed emotions. I love that we have this as a tool. However, it gets concerning when you hear discussions of how AI will replace people. And I agree with you. I completely agree. And I believe that's why it's so important for our skills. Our jobs are going to evolve. And I feel that those of us who know how to leverage these tools and understand them and can direct these tools are going to be better positioned in our future world. So Bertha Levinson's immigrant story. This is how my mom gave it to me, like a laminated thing, right? I couldn't read it. I couldn't do anything with it. And so I'm like, I bet I can create a custom GPT. So there's a QR code if you want to check it out and have a conversation with my great aunt Bertha. But going through this process, I learned a lot, right? Like I got the digital copy from the library. Oh, we're good on time too. I just wanted to check. And what I was able to do is create this custom GPT. And in that process, I learned things like it automatically assumed the name Isidore was a sister. So it talked about having sisters. Thankfully, I had my mom as a tester, right, to call that out. The other thing is when I ask questions, it sometimes made stuff up about what happened to my grandma after the immigration story ended. And so these were all great learnings just by going through this process. And what it seemed to me like is a movie, right? We go to movies now that are based on history, but they've taken creative liberties. But in my head, what was most important is this is a way for future generations to relive interact with and preserve that family history in a better way than that big piece of cardboard. Then I couldn't quite visualize where all of these locations were. So this was my first time with a tool called Lovable. I don't know if you're familiar with Lovable, hit the like button, okay? Lovable allows me to bring things to life on a website. And I can call this up live for you to look at. Give me just a second, Tally. I'm gonna exit out of this for a minute. And I am going to share the actual Lovable journey map. Can you see it? Where I'm clicking the button and it can call up the information and I can scroll around. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I would be able to create an interactive map, right? But this helped me visualize the journey. And this is something called vibe coding. And this is something we're actually going to be talking about next week with Josh Lemon. And he is the Senior Director of Total Rewards at Residio. And you are going to be blown away next week by how he started by doing something for fun and how it turned into something for his work, where they now have an enterprise Lovable account and everybody on his team is part of it. So it's absolutely phenomenal. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing that relates to this journey, right? And the learning. Who is familiar here with Notebook LM? Hit the heart button, like button if you are familiar with Notebook LM. Because Notebook LM allows us to consume information in different ways. Not everybody just wants to read something, right? We're impatient. We're driving. You can't read and drive at the same time, but you can listen. So think about taking a policy document and having it be something you can listen to. Or maybe you see things better in diagrams, right? And so what this did, this created I'll make it big, but it created how I built this story in what would be like a PowerPoint presentation, which was pretty powerful. And it also created an audio file and a video. And the audio file I can go back and interact with. So I know we're talking about an immigrant journey right here, but now I want you to put on your hat and say, how could something like this be leveraged in relocation and global mobility, right? Just some food for thought there. All right, we're going back here. I'm going to click present. All right, we did Notebook. We are going to talk about different AI pathways, right? In some cases, you are going to have your personal accounts, and I'm going to talk more about personal accounts. Natalie, I've used AI to improve some of my global mobility drafts. Let's go. Peter had a great leader who used AI to make a thank you video for each direct report to accompany the STI letter. I love that. Phenomenal. Favorite recent work use case, helping me update job descriptions and performance rubric for my team. Saved me hours. Yes, these are such great examples. Currently leading HR team to explore and build new AI agents for the team to reduce labor-intensive processes. Favorite recent work use case, streamline invoice reconciliation process. Fantastic. These are all such great examples. Yes, Notebook LM is a free tool and it's through the Google Suite. So if you have access to a Gmail account and you know those 9 buttons in the upper right corner of your screen, and then you can choose Gmail or calendar, whatever it is, Notebook LM, if you scroll down to the bottom, is one of those options. Different AI pathways, again, personal accounts. You're going to have team enterprise accounts. Maybe that's your Copilot or your Gemini. And then it's built into tools you use every day. Here we have some of the main enterprise accounts that we see today, all with built-in security, right? Some companies are doing multiple, right? Some companies will have a Copilot, but they'll also have ChatGPT. It depends on what your company looks like. In talking to other leaders, what's interesting now is they now have a Gen AI security approval process. It can also be baked into the tools you're using every day. Workday, Salesforce, yes, Benivo too. And here we go, my tech stack. I know it's blinding, right? I can't even handle all the stuff that I'm using and experimenting with. But each one has like its own little piece that to me stands out. Like sometimes I'll use ChatGPT for something and sometimes I'll use Claude, and it just depends. And for Claude, for me, one of my favorite things is that I can visualize things. really, really well with interactive documents. But here's all the different ways. Gemini, actually, I'll show you in a minute, just added the ability to make music. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So now what I want to hear from you, who has personal AI accounts separate from your enterprise accounts? I want to hear, please let me know. There are a few reasons why this matters, right? We talked about it just a moment ago. Things are iffy right now with the state of our job market, correct? We just don't know. And when you only have an enterprise account, that means all and any conversations you're having are the ownership of the company when you leave. And so I like to think it's good to have your own account too, just to keep track of your own information. And obviously that will require guidelines too for what from work you can put in and can't put in. But even just the AI getting to know you, Natalie does have a personal account too, and I do too. Now, here's the other thing that came out just this weekend, and I couldn't believe it, is the Wells Fargo head of AI said AI fluency starts outside the office. And he says it's crucial for employees to use in their personal lives. One example he gave, Claude, Deborah, he's trying to build an agent to help pull documents for his 2026 tax returns. And I'm going to tell you what I did this weekend. I wanted to try Claude Cowork. Again, it's an agent type thing. I don't know if any of you have to like track mileage for anything, but I had to track my mileage over 2025 and I'm not good at it. I'm not doing it as I go. And so I created, this Claude Cowork that literally went through my entire calendar for 2025 with everything with a physical address. And here's decisions you have to make, right? It's like, well, in order to get the distance that you traveled, I'm going to need your. I'm not saying I recommend this for everyone, but I did put in my address and it gave me the exact mileage for every single thing in my calendar so that I could submit it for my taxes. And if you look at Claude Cowork too, it'll give you all these different ideas of what it can do for you. So you don't have to feel like when you go in there, you're starting from scratch with ideas. But that's just, keep that in the back of your head. All right, we're moving on. Time for more input. And I saw some of these answers come through, but what's your favorite tool and why? I saw some Claude, I saw some Chat GPTs. So I'm going to tell you mine, Suno, and I'll show you why in a little bit. I want to talk about prompting. And I believe some of it can be like a recipe or baking, right? And if you want the exact results, prompting matters. And here's an example of when I created a custom prompt. I was creating standard operating procedures for the retail company. And I knew that I wanted to know what systems needed to be accessed. I wanted to know exactly what permissions were required. So as we onboarded new people, I wanted the time codes from the video of where certain things were so that I could pull in screenshots. Although now, a year and a half, 2 years later, you might actually be able to get those screenshots put in automatically because things are constantly evolving. But if you want an output that is contained and exact every time, that's when a specific prompt matters. And you can get help from AI tools to craft your prompts. I also believe there are benefits sometimes with open-ended questions. And sometimes if you've ever asked of a meeting transcript, read between the lines, it's pretty impressive what it'll come up with and what it can see going on behind the scenes with dynamics or anything else that you may not have thought of besides just here's your meeting minutes and action items. So there are benefits to those more open-ended questions, and think of it like with the recipe when, you know what I mean? You just want to go off recipe and maybe you're going to get something better than if you just followed the exact measurements. All right, here we go. Ethan Malik, he is one of my favorites. So I know we talked about Connor Grennan earlier. Ethan Malik is absolutely one of my favorite people to follow on LinkedIn. I think he's speaking at the big conference in Las Vegas right now, HR conference. And this picture is not a deep fake. Ooh, Notebook LM, gems, yes. Notebook LM, yes. We got a lot of Google folks, yes. See, different. Claude for Logic. Chat, yes. All right. So this is not a deep fake. I ran into him at a restaurant, and his whole take, again, we're talking about prompting here. It's all about knowing what you're going to ask, right? If you were delegating this to a human who didn't have context, what would they need to know to be successful? Now, let's talk about all the stuff we're doing every day that keeps us in the weeds, that makes us dread sometimes getting up in the morning. And the cost of daily work adds up, right? We're spending our time on stuff that may not necessarily be high value work. And that was a study from Intel. We also did a study here at Benivo, and what we found was AI adoption in HR is actually on the low end compared to other departments. However, leaderships are asking for it. What are you doing with AI? How are you saving time? How are you incorporating it? And I think that's one of the reasons I was so drawn and excited to be a part of the Benivo team, is because they understand this, and they figured out not only how to make AI accessible, easy, trustworthy in the tools every day, but also how to measure it, right? So that you can report back. Then there's the hidden cost of a question. I know I was guilty of this. I'd find it way easier just to Slack someone and ask them the question, but that eats up so much time, right? Not only are you taking the time to type up the question, but then you're sending it to someone who has to look at it, figure out what the answer is, answer you. And I know this cost estimate is on the lower side, but this is what was at a recent presentation I saw, just how costly questions are. And this is where AI can be a huge help, being able to locate answers just by having it go through a database. And yeah, I got to do another plug for our mobility intelligence, right? Because we're giving people this instant access to answers without having to be like, who should I ask? Or where's that information? Or waiting for someone to reply. Our mobility intelligence is answering up to 80% of employee inquiries immediately. And we're also making the same thing available for global mobility teams, right? They can go in, they can do immigration assessments. I mean, we talked about earlier with tax residency and all of these things. You can start making predictions and getting answers with instant results, which is super exciting. Now, when I do something with AI, I always doubt the results. Did it capture everything? Did I get the task right? Is the information on the task identifiable on the general web? And I think that's so important, right? You can ask AI, what are your sources? Where did you get this from? And then make sure that it's documented. And oftentimes I will go in and click those links. I want to read it for myself when the stats and details matter. So that is such an important thing. I do believe these sites are getting better. Perplexity, I believe, is one of the best sites for documenting where the information came from. And also, if you've ever tried Agent in ChatGPT and then you watch the agent work, it literally shows you every step, every site it's visiting, and then creates a list of sources for you that it used in compiling that information. Such a good question. We use Eightfold extensively, not just for recruiting, but as our key talent tool, increasing our understanding of available skills across the organization. Here, I am seeing so much great input and so many great comments here. And I know at the end of the show I was going to mention it, but I'm going to be doing an iPrompt to double check for accuracy. Excellent. What I'm hoping some of you can do is Friday, I'm leading an office hours where you can all be on camera with me. Believe it or not, it's even better when you're able to share your stories out loud and we can all ask questions of each other. Because that's where the amazing stuff happens. So I would encourage you to join Friday and share your stories. Now, here's a question I asked, I don't know, I think it was even a year ago. Like, what if someone took your AI away? How much, would they have to pay for you to give it up? And at the time, some people were like, nothing, I'm fine without it. Other people were like, oh my gosh, there's no price because it's adding so much value to my everyday. So I'm curious, what would be your price to give up your AI? Oh, I've clicked. There we go. This was a study. Again, I think it's from a year ago. And Copilot, fantastic, Natalie. And someone commented that 70% said they didn't want to give it up. So I believe that number might even be higher now. Here are some real examples. Looks like we're having a few issues loading, and that's not a problem, because I'm going to go right up here and I'm going to call it up. Draft a global mobility policy language on COLA. And I do need to give a shout out to Amy Parent. She and I were on a panel together at the Tennessee Relocation Council, and she was talking about different ways she's using AI in her everyday. So I definitely can't take credit for this. But again, it lets you get a good start, and then you can ask questions of it at the end. And if the more information you have or context going in, the better. And I'm going to pause for a second, because yesterday I had a meeting with our AI Global Mobility Hub, and we were talking more about the music. And we were talking about, how people learn and how we can all remember lyrics from like 50 years ago, yet we can't remember something someone told us 5 minutes ago. And they're like, imagine if we could start consuming information about our policies or whatever it is through music. So I took this cost of living COLA and I put it into Gemini, which now makes music. And here's the
New country, new adventure, time to go. Let's make sure your budget's good to go. It's your COLA for daily life and all you do. It's your COLA. We're taking care of you.
All right, we saw some comments. One that came in, I didn't realize until just now how much I love it, and I wouldn't want to give it up, Lisa. That's right. There are ways to find joy in this tool, and I know there's two. I don't want to discount the scary stuff happening, because there certainly is a lot of scary stuff happening. But I like to say, take control of what you can control, right? And sometimes I do believe all of us in our everyday, there are opportunities for good. I'm going to show you another chat. This again from Amy was, she had to do something related to renters insurance. So she put in, write an email to a group of expatriates reinforcing the importance of obtaining renters insurance. Here she had a draft that she could work with to save time, and she could ask further questions, refine it, but it helped save a ton of time there. And then I'm going to show you one other example. Vialto is so great about sending updates on the Mideast crisis. So I was like, great, I'm going to copy and paste this email that I just got from Vialto. And then I'm going to say at the receive this message from Vialto. It went to corporate immigration and global mobility leaders. How can AI help teams dealing with this situation right now? And I thought it gave me some really great ideas. And it actually gave me a set of different prompts. And so for next week, I'm going to show you how I turn that into something that is digestible, like a website, when we talk about vibe coding. Boop. Here we go. Present. I know I got to click there. The renters insurance, we talked about that. The crisis management. And then this week, vibe coding, right? How you can actually see these things in a more visual way and create usable things that can be shared with your teams. I have undiagnosed ADHD, right? I like to see things that, again, are colorful, that I can click and see in more bite-sized things. So now I do want to spend a few minutes here. I'm curious, who uses AI to help craft or edit emails? Let me know. Hit the like button, or dislike button. I don't know. But now I'm curious to hear too from you. Can you recognize AI generated or enhanced emails? And the next question is, do you care? For me, I believe there are certain situations where it doesn't matter. It's all about the information. However, in relationship roles, I do believe that it does matter, and that there are certain signs that it's been AI generated. And there's a name for it. Is anybody familiar with AI slop? All right, here we go, Tally. Are you ready? Come on. These are words and phrases that scream, I used AI.
Well, we
Right.
had a big argument about this deep dive wordings. I felt that I've been using it a lot, not just with my Gemini, but yeah, definitely there's one there. And I wonder if people in the comments would notice it. But oh, Deborah says that she can that she can notice. I'm not sure, Deborah. It depends if it's a good quality. And I think what's important is that you give a good editing to anything, any result that you receive from the AI. You need to give it a very good editing to give it your flavor and your voice. Robin says, "I can and
I care."
and I care. Okay, so out of everything that Lori put here, what screams the most AI generated? Let's see what people say. And I think our CEO has captured it and really, really doesn't like it. So there's one thing here that is really big time screamer. Can people notice it?
And the discussions around this on LinkedIn are so interesting in terms of feelings about it. But I'm curious from others what's their signal. And I care when it feels less unauthentic. Yes. And especially if the tone of the email is all wrong for the culture of that company. Good call.
Definitely. This goes back to the editing. But Lori, do you want to? Yeah.
I'll share the thing, but I have a funny story to tell about. I hope this message finds you well. I was working with this group. They were trying to get funding, and they started this email with, "I hope this message finds you well." And I'm like, "You guys, that is like a clear AI wrote it." And they're like, "But I actually wrote it." And then we wonder, right, how we get in these scenarios, right? And you have a perfect example here, Tally.
Yeah, Peter Cross. Kudos, Peter. Exactly. This is the M dash. Yeah, but actually, we found this post, which actually shows that either William Shakespeare's text was written by AI. Could it?
Or people use them.
Or was it just using M dashes? So yes, actually M dash was used by the biggest writers. And do you know, Lori, what's the origin of the M dash?
Actually, Tally, I think we should ask ChatGPT. Has anybody else used voice mode, which is my favorite thing to do, as a way to, I don't know, sometimes I just need to do brain dumps because there's so much circling in my mind and I can't keep it straight. And so I love voice mode and I talk to my buddy. Let's see if he's here. Hi, ChatGPT. And some people name theirs. You're slow. What's up? Where'd you go? Oh, how come when the spotlight's on, you're not there?
Try to restart it.
I guess I just wanted to build suspense for a second, like that dramatic pause before a punchline. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Spotlight's on, we're good.
All right, so tell all of us, what is the history with the M dash? Why is it called the M dash?
All right, picture an old printing press where letters were cast in metal. The dash that matched the width of a capital M was, drumroll, the M dash. It's basically the dash equivalent of a bold move, longer and ready to emphasize or interrupt. It's called the M dash because it was literally the size of the letter M. Classic, right?
Classic. Now, how would you describe the M dash in Italian?
Lo descriverei così. L'M dash è una linetta lunga, chiamata così perché è larga quanto una lettera M. È quella pausa drammatica, quella separazione che spicca in una frase.
Oh my God, I love this language. It's pausa drammatica.
It's so fun. Okay, we're back. Think about now for a minute the problems that AI can solve. Immediate feedback on sales calls. I know I'm getting those. And I appreciate having hey, next time, maybe ask this question, or did you think about this? Survey analysis. I can't be the only one who's had to go through survey analysis line by line and then try to quantify and build pivot tables with what matters. job posting competitive analysis. And I can't wait for you guys to see what Josh Lemon built next week related to job postings and figuring out some of their job descriptions. You can test communications for bias. So there's a way to say, if this is my audience, is there anything in here that could go over not very well? Research, incredibly powerful tool. You could build a dossier creator for you that could help. Difficult convo practice. Who's had to have difficult conversations? You can do this totally anonymous without mentioning any names, and you can actually role play and practice. Then there's all the whole review process, whether you're reviewing yourself or someone else and trying to build smart goals. Someone just last week said what a difference AI made in doing her self-review. And then companies do nominations and awards, right? And we want to recognize the amazing people we're surrounded by every day. This can help you get your thoughts together in a way to do those thoughts and rewards. And a discussion this week too, and it came up earlier, I think there was a comment earlier about recognizing our fellow coworkers. And I think they did it with a video, but there are certainly ways, right, to bring more joy, more recognition, more love to the people who support you every day with these tools. Tally?
Lori, I think it's time to bring back the over 50s topic.
Oh,
right?
yeah, we're going there. Okay, we did voice. Yeah, here we go. This was a study that came out, and I think we're going to bring in Tomas and Julie. Why women 50 plus thrive in the age of AI. I know I have my thoughts. It's because we're older than Google, right? We've used maps. We're used to change. But how about some of these other ones? I'd love your feedback, Julie and Tomas.
Well, let me put my reading glasses on first so I can read this.
I think only Lori doesn't have a reading glass.
I have to go like this. Do you see me every time?
Yeah, I think, women over 50, you're right. We've had to adapt. We've had to do a lot of different things. We've a lot of different roles in our lives. But it is interesting to see how we will all use all of this and all of the different tools that are out there. I have to say, I have learned so much, Lori, just in the last 45, however long you've been talking about this. A lot of tools I'd never heard of. So now I need to learn and adapt even more. But I do think there's a lot that we can learn. But we're also learning from our children, right? Correct. So we're listening to our children. What are they doing? And I think women are very good doing that and learning from the next generation.
Julie, I think this is the thing. We're good listeners. We're also very good prompters, and not just prompting the AI. We know how to prompt our husbands. We know how to prompt our kids. We know how to prompt everyone around us. And so why would it be easy for us to prompt our AIs?
I think you're right. We are really good prompters. We've spent our whole lives. It's true. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
so Deborah also says, women know well how to build relationships and prompts for the right response.
Tomas?
I think it's a matter of balance, and I think the judgment comment makes a lot of sense as well. So it requires a lot of experience. It requires a lot of situations, and who better than an experienced woman in order to judge what currently maybe a machine cannot judge, right? So that's the human touch, and which is more presently in experienced women. So makes a lot of sense.
One thing that AI can never take away, and this is the host seat of this show. And as Meredith says, this was awesome, Lori. A great show.
So grateful
for the end of the hour.
Thank you all so much for being here today. And I hope you'll come back next week for more. I'm really excited about the conversation with Josh. And if you have any feedback, please let me know, or things you want to see, just DM me or get in touch. And
we have this series of 3 Lori Ignite sessions. So this week, next week is going to be another one. And April 1st is going to be the 3rd. And of course, I've shared the link to Lori's Friday sessions. So please be sure to register to that. Thank you, Lori, for hosting this show.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.